you heard me say it's a will with an asset protection trust. This protection of assets against long-term care costs, against Medicaid, cannot be accomplished through a revocable living trust. Most people are familiar and have heard the term revocable living trusts. And the selling point why revocable living trusts are beneficial, everyone believes, is because they're intended to avoid probate. That is true. And in many circumstances, a revocable living trust is a great estate planning tool, but not for what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about is how do you protect money for your spouse against long-term care costs so that they don't become broke? You can't do that through a revocable living trust. The state of Washington will not recognize a revocable living trust as protecting assets for the surviving spouse against long-term care costs. Because if you did the same situation and you didn't use a will, instead you used a revocable living trust, what happens? Yes, you avoid probate if the revocable living trust was set up correctly, but the money that is in the trust for the surviving spouse, once a first spouse has died, all has to be spent down. It is not protected. The state of Washington says that money in the trust is countable against the surviving spouse for Medicaid benefits eligibility analysis. What does that mean? They need to spend it all down. What good did that do? Why have a revocable living trust with an asset protection supplemental needs trust in it if it is completely ineffective? And if you do have a revocable living trust and the lawyer told you, oh, this is a great planning technique in Washington, I would suggest that you talk with them further and ask them specifically. I heard somebody talking on YouTube or on a webinar, and they said that in the state of Washington, so that Medicaid doesn't count the money in this trust, that it has to be a trust created by a will. Is that true? The attorney will answer you, yes, it is true, if they know anything about what they're doing. Then you say to them, why do I have a revocable living trust? Well, because, you know, I don't know what they're going to say, because what has to happen, and there are a number of practitioners who use revocable living trusts, and what they fail to disclose to their client is, we're setting you up for probate anyway, because probate is the only way that a will can create a trust. So even though you have a revocable living trust, if you look closely, it says it's going to pay to your estate. What does that mean? Pay to your estate means it is going to go to your will and going to go through probate so that you get the asset protection. So one of my goals is to share information, to educate, to be as transparent as possible. And one of my real concerns is when attorneys are disingenuous and don't tell you everything that you should know so that you can make an informed decision. And if you have a revocable living trust, that's a red flag. When any client comes in to me and they have a revocable living trust and they say, well, I was told that it would avoid probate and it would protect assets against long-term care costs, then I have to say, I'm sorry, I have to tell you it won't work. And we have to do a new plan for you that is based on a will. And they say, well, if it's based on a will, that means there's going to be a probate of the will. That's the only way to create the trust, right? And I was told probate is bad. That's why people want revocable living trust, because they've been told, understandably, that probate is bad. Probate isn't bad. Probate isn't good. Probate is a legal process. Is probate beneficial to your estate? Well, as I just explained in how to protect assets so that the spouse won't go broke and will get Medicaid and the state to pay, probate is very beneficial. If you can protect 400,000 or 1.5 million or whatever the amount is, so that the state doesn't count it and interfere with Medicaid benefits, so that the state will pay for the care, that's not bad. Probate is beneficial. Probate is, so the question is it not bad? Is it good? Does it benefit me? If there is no benefit to your estate, to you, to your spouse, course, we don't recommend probate. We recommend a different manner of setting up your estate plan, different tools. So when it comes to probate, really the question is does it benefit me and help me understand probate more? And if it doesn't benefit me, my estate, then what other planning techniques are there? We've got other webinars and other places you can look to talk about probate and why you should avoid it. So I just really wanted to, explain that, because a lot of people have the misconception that probate is bad. No, probate can be very good, and probate can make sure that your surviving spouse will never become broke.